Hello everybody, welcome back to Evolving Vibes. Welcome back to the community for pagans, witches, and everybody in between. So for today's video, I'm going to be putting together my own creation of black salt. Very much different than what others use, and it's my own thing. So that being said, we're going to go through the process of me making black salt, and towards the end of the video, you'll see both the end product of the black salt, as well as going over some of its uses. I've got my altar set up, and I'm just cleansing my materials and my space, and soon we'll be beginning to make some black salt. Right? So now that everything's cleaned, let's go over the process of making black salt. Let's first start off with, what the hell is black salt and why do we need it? So black salt is a bit different than that culinary black salt, which is actually rock salt and activated charcoal. And black salt that we utilize for witchcraft is a bit different. First off, we're not going to be sprinkling it on our food. That would be nasty and gross. So take that thought right the hell out of your head. Secondly, we utilize it for a lot of things. One can be for protectiveness, for reflective magic. It can be utilized for hexing. It can be utilized for a lot of different things. What I'm going to be demonstrating to you is my personal base black salt formula. After I've done this base, add things to it later on for its very specific intent. However, as a base, it's still going to be very much protective and very much useful and strong for protective magic. But black salt is one of the most empowering types of protective magic and defensive magic that we have. It works incredibly well, and there's a lot of different reasons and methods of utilizing it, and we'll go through that throughout the whole video. So let's first start off with, what do we need for it? Well, you definitely need some charcoal briquettes like I have here. I've got 3. As I said before in previous videos, I like to work with 3. You also need some salt. So I've got some Himalayan salt right here that I'm going to be utilizing. And along with that, I've got some ritual salt that I'm going to be utilizing with some rosemary and thyme inside of it. You also need some black pepper. So here we go. I've got some black pepper to grind up. And we definitely want to utilize our incense ashes. Anything that we've utilized for magic that's created ash for us, unless it's an actual written spell, we want to utilize. In other words, ashes, incense ashes, that sort of thing. If we're doing a spell and we're writing a petition and we burn it, we want to release that out into the environment. So that's something that we wouldn't actually keep inside of our ash container that we utilize. We'd actually already be setting that free. But this can be ashes from incense, it can be cigar ashes, cigarette ashes, pipe tobacco ashes, charcoal ashes, you name the ash and you can put it in here. Just a whole lot of ash going on. Along with that, we're going to be utilizing this mortar, and we're going to be grinding everything up. And as we're putting all of these ingredients together, we're going to be setting our intent into the mixture itself. And our intent is the most important aspect of everything that we're doing. If we were just half-assing this and throwing all this, combining it together into this container without any thought for protection, without any thought for defensive, without any thought whatsoever, we're not actually putting our intent into it, and it wouldn't be as strong, it wouldn't be as powerful. So it's very important that no matter what you utilize, no matter what you do for magic, you always empower it with your intent. Let's remember, one of the things we always want to consider, it's not sacred until we make it sacred. It's not magical until we make it magical. So let's start off. Oh, and by the way, I forgot, I'm also going to be adding some sage into the mix too, of course. We're continuing the process of breaking down the charcoal. As we're doing so, we're envisioning how it can actually absorb negativity, how it can actually absorb ill thoughts, spells cast upon us, negative thoughts or wishes against us, and how it can absorb it all so it doesn't affect our life. And I've got to put the third one in, so let's do that. Now, some people at this point in time will talk about activated charcoal. So I guess I'll talk about activated charcoal. If you wanted to, you wouldn't have to break all this down. You could buy some activated charcoal and it would actually be done for you. Now, two caveats with that. Number one, as a paramedic for years and years and years, I can tell you up front, firsthand, activated charcoal is an absolute mess to work with. It's just powder everywhere, no matter how careful you are. And number two, if you're crushing this down like I am, and you're visualizing all of the intent like I am, and you're really putting that energy into this, you're losing a lot of that oomph when you just pour activated charcoal in and mix things up. So to me, the most important aspect of all of these type of crafts and these do-it-yourselves we do from a witchy standpoint is about actually putting the sweat and the muscle into it and the intent into it, because that makes it our own, that makes it more powerful, and that makes it even more potent. All right, so I think we're good with the charcoal. Now that we've ground up the charcoal, you can actually see how fine I've got it. It's just really just powder. Exactly what we want. Now, I'm going to add my ash to it. All of this ash right here. Do you like my black spoon? I got this metal spoon at Walmart for like 88 cents, and it's what I utilize for a lot of my magical workings. I love it. And it's easy to cleanse, and it's always available to me on my altar versus going to the kitchen, pulling out the spoon drawer, and going through all that. And I don't live alone, so I always hear about where are the spoons, what kind of work are you doing with the spoons, please stop doing magic with the spoons, yada, yada, yada. So I got my own black magical spoon, and this is what I use it for. So now we're going to mix this up a little bit and get these all ground up. And now it's going to look a bit like this. Still black, but now it's got the ash in it, as you can see. Very fine, very powdery. Exactly what we want. Now we're going to take some of our sage. And I'm just going to be using the leaves of the sages, obviously, not the stalk. So let's break some leaves up in there. And you don't need a lot of sage, just a little bit will do you. There we go. And we're going to grind this up. And we're good. And you probably saw that bit of charcoal flying out of the mortar and pestle at that point in time. And that's to be expected. When you're making black salt, it gets rather messy. Now we're going to go with some Himalayan salt. Now, I'm not going to grind this too much because I do like the salt to actually be relatively solid, because it helps everything to stay loose and not cake up and not get itself all stuck together. So just a bit of Himalayan salt. And while I'm at it and I'm salting things up, I'm going to add some of my ritual salt. And that should do it for the salt. But clearly you're adding a bunch of salt to this because it's actually black salt, right? So let's get this ground up. And I like grinding the salt after I ground all of the charcoal. Because like I said, I don't want it to be finely ground. However, I do want it to grind up a bit, but I also want it to mix really, really well with the charcoal. And I would say that's a pretty good combo right there. Let's check this out. And that's actually really nice. That's exactly the consistency that I kind of like. So we're good with that. Now, I'm going to add some black pepper to it. And the same thing goes with the salt. We want it ground a bit, but we don't want it finely ground because we want it to mix in with that charcoal really well and allow it to stay relatively loose so that it doesn't get itself all caked up if it's been sitting there for a while. Because hopefully you're not going to need this every day. If you do, you may want to change the circle that you're traveling, because certainly if you're in a circle where you need to make yourself a fresh batch of black salt every week, you're probably in the wrong circle and want to revisit some of that. But that's just my 2 cents. You do you though. So I think we're good to go with the black pepper. Just going to check this out again. Yeah, that's a nice consistency. And now, one of the things I do that not everybody does is I like adding quartz to it. Quartz increases the power of anything that you're doing, but along with that, clear quartz is something that you can program. So, if you are going to utilize this as a blink, you do know now that whatever small portion you take out, you're going to be able to program with the empowerment of both the clear quartz that's in it, as well as other ingredients that you may add to it. Clearly, I'm not going to grind down the clear quartz, but I am going to mix it up nicely. Okay, so I transferred everything out of my mortar and I put it inside my jar. So this is how much everything you saw me put together yielded me for black salt. And that's a good amount. We talked about black salt being very specifically for protection. Now, you can utilize it for a lot of different things. You can add herbs to it, such as mugwort. You can also add lavender. Each one of the herbs that I've mentioned, as well as all the other herbs you have available to you, will actually empower that black salt with its qualities and what you would utilize. For me, this black salt is going to go out in the new moon. It's going to absorb that energy, and I'll be making, with some of this anyway, a witch's ball for the house. Along with that, putting a bit of this inside of a little glass container, inside of a little mojo bag for inside my car for protection while I travel and while I drive. But there's a ton of different things that you can do with it, and it's all up to you to really decide what it is you want to do with it. Welcome back to the other side of the camera. So here's my black salt. It's all done and it's ready to go. So what will happen is this will actually go out in the new moon in just 4 days and will absorb that new moon energy as well. Now, as I said before, if any of all of this resonates with you, take what it is that you want, and whatever doesn't resonate, leave it behind, right? You don't have to take it all. It's just my method of doing it, and it's what works for me. Whatever works for you, keep on trucking. Now, just to talk about black salt just a little bit. As I said before, it's very much a very strong protective entity. Along with that, as I said earlier, you can add certain other elements to it to make it even more protective based upon what you believe, based upon what you practice. That can be stones, that can be herbs, that can be anything you want it to be. Because once you say, this is what this is for, that is, in fact, what it's for. Now, some of the things you may not want to use this for, like any salt, you do not want to go out in nature and create yourself a circle of salt. It's very bad for the environment, it's very bad for the ground, and it's very bad for any plants or grass that you're actually pouring it on. So no salt circles outside, peeps. Let's keep it with stones, let's keep it with drawing a circle. In the dirt or in the grass is symbolically just walking and drawing a circle. 2, you'd never want to draw, and I'm sorry I'm chuckling when I say this, but you'd never want to draw a black salt circle in the house either. Reason being, it's charcoal. You saw how messy it gets. This is probably one of the messier projects you can have. And if you're drawing a salt circle of black inside your house for protection, you're going to be cursing yourself for weeks to come because you ain't never getting rid of all that charcoal. So again, you can draw a circle symbolically with your wand, with your athame. You can cordon off 4 points with candles if you don't have any pets or children, that is. But certainly you don't need to draw a black salt circle in the house. It's going to get messy. It's going to stain. It ain't worth it. So that person raising a hand back there, what is it? Can you draw a salt circle in the house without black salt? You could, but there's really no reason to. Certainly you can draw a salt circle inside your house if you want to practice a ritual, but again, you don't really need the salt circle if you're actually creating that circle symbolically, using your energy, using your wand, using your athame. If you really want to go for it, you can actually create a circle with candles. Now, you don't necessarily need to use lit candles, although many people might. You can go out to any store and buy yourself battery-operated candles and utilize those. They give off a wonderful glow. I do have a bunch of those in the house. However, I use those more so if I'm doing anything at ground level with my pets in the house, because I've already had cats walk through my flames before 5 times. And it's stressful, it's not fun. Luckily, nobody got hurt, but again, it's just not something I want to put myself in a situation of yet again. So, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If all of this resonates with you, take what you want. If some of it doesn't resonate, leave it on behind. But let me know what you think. Let me know also what other little witchy DIYs you may want to see me add into our community. And until next time, please, 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 be safe, be well, and as always, be blessed.